done. Maybe on your end, could you see that I've gone live via the October group page?
Yep, I see it. It's the October group has gone live. It's a yellow, pink, red circle around the October group, and it says live.
Okay. So Doc, what we're going to do is go to your page.
Oh wow. I think I'm on it. We're connecting. Okay. I think we're on. Okay, now done.
Okay, you ready for me to request to join?
Yes, please. So we are with technical difficulty a little bit, but that's okay. We're waiting for Dan to join us. He should be joining us any second now. So super excited about tonight's conversation. I see, there he is. There he is. Well, hello, Dan. Can you hear us okay? Can you hear us okay?
So I cannot hear you folks yet.
You can't hear me. Can you hear me now?
And it looks like Francie and you are muted, at least on the Zoom part. Can you guys
Okay.
hear me?
I can hear you through that, so I cannot hear you through the live. So, Francie, maybe you can undo us. And for those who have joined, thank you for joining. We're excited. And then now you just turned yourself sideways. So you have to turn yourself back. There you go. Perfect. Thank you. Okay, Dan, if
I
you
can't hear a thing.
can you hear now, Dan? Okay, now I can't hear. Uh-oh. Francie, do you need to unmute me or something?
And now I can't.
So again, I'm gonna. So Francie, are we able to fix the volume? I'm gonna
Yes.
test. There we go. I think we got it. Can you hear Dan? Can you hear me? Nope. Can you hear me now? Okay, you say something. Yeah, I can't hear you. Uh-oh, this may not go the way we thought it was going to go today. Francie, is there a way to adjust the volume somehow? And Francie, we can't hear you anymore. Dan, can you hear me?
I can.
Philipia, mute yourself. Mute the button. So now I'm muted. Hey, Dan, can you hear me? If you say something, maybe I can hear you. I see one of my favorite cousins are on it. Can you do me a favor, cousin? If you can comment, can you hear me through the IG live? So Dan, I can see your lips moving, but I think I can only hear you. Can you say something now? No, I can't hear you. Francie is there, and now he's gone. Now I can't see you on the IG live. Just said, hey, Dan is leaving the live. So you have left the live, Dan. hold on, Dan. I think, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I think the best thing to do um, is, Francie, are you still with us? I think the best thing for us to do is maybe to reschedule because we can't seem to get on, and I can write the note because I don't know, I don't even hear Francie anymore.
I can hear you actually.
Okay. And but we can't seem to get Dan on. And we have a few people on. So those who are on, thank you, thank you, thank you. We're trying to figure out, can we get Dan back?
Dan,
Yes, Frankie.
have you been able to rejoin?
Um, I am. It looks to me like I'm on. It says live. I'm talking through the phone, but the phone is what we were using for the Zoom.
Oh,
So
leave
maybe
this.
I need to get out of that.
Leave the Zoom. Yes, the mic is being used.
Oh, I think we found it. So for those who are patient with two senior seasoned people doing technology, I think we found the culprit. So, yeah, Dan, you should probably totally come out of Zoom. Oh, now I can't hear you. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's okay. Just leave the Zoom. Yeah. Uh-oh, can't hear you.
Well, does he need to come back in?
Doc, can you see
He
Dan?
nope, he came out of Zoom, so hopefully he's coming on here. So as our highest hope is Dan is coming back on. Tonight is a episode with Dr. Dan Jackson around his new book being acquired. So I'm hoping he can navigate his way back onto IG. So hopefully he'll be able to do that. I think we'll give him about 1 minute or so. And then if we can't get him back on, then I think we can reschedule and maybe just, oh, here he is. Dan,
Hello.
hello, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Look at that. Look at that. We are there. We are there and we are live. It took us a few minutes, but hey, we are there. So that is perfect.
And we're almost on time.
Yes, that's okay. That's okay. So if you can we both just take a deep breath so we can come in here?
I'm breathing deep.
Yeah, and we can start all over and do what we had designed ourselves to do. So for those on who don't know me, Dr. Philipia Hillman, I am the founder of the October Group. We work at the nexus of leadership, culture, and strategy. So I'm super excited about this evening. And I would like to introduce Dr. Dan Jackson, who is the author of Being Acquired. So, Dan, if you could tell us a little bit about yourself as you come on and ease your way into this Instagram experience.
Yeah, thank you. It has been quite an experience already. So a little bit about me. Really, I grew up in Maryland, D.C., Maryland, Virginia area, and have been here for a long time. In terms of me personally, I've got a couple of sons, two sons, and they're doing great things, and I'm very proud of them. Married and to a wonderful woman named Mathan, and we're happily living in Falls Church. I, I really lean towards doing anything that's outdoors in terms of hobbies. But as some people on the call know, I also do enjoy making wine
Nice.
and smoking a lot of food in my vertical smoker. So that's a little bit about me.
Cool. I wasn't sure what you were going to say. Making wine and enjoy smoking. I was like, uh-oh, what's he going to say? But smoking food is good. So
Yeah,
I'm glad. And no judgment about smoking anything else. I just wasn't sure what you were going to say.
yeah.
So
We'll
again,
keep you guessing.
welcome. Welcome. I'm so glad you agreed to join tonight. This is great. Um, so being acquired, which I have read, and I have to tell you, I so enjoyed the journey of the research, and I want to honor that it is your research. And for me, it was a book down memory lane. So thank you for writing it, and would love for you to share what compelled you to write the book and go into this dissertation.
Yeah, sure. So, first of all, the to get a doctorate was always on my bucket list, my personal list. I didn't think it was going to take me quite this long to accomplish, but I did it nevertheless. And the dissertation was sort of focused on an area that I had been thinking about because of my experiences, and that is acquisitions, mergers and acquisitions in the management consulting arena. Um, when I got through, as I was doing the research and everything, I just found it, very fascinating and applicable to so many different cultures and businesses, industries, and whatnot, that I thought the writing a book was probably the natural follow-on. I had wonderful research participants that provided me with just a ton of qualitative information. We had great conversations. I wanted to share their experiences with other folks that may learn some things, or what the findings may validate what they had been thinking and feeling as they go through an M&A, or prepare them for an M&A. And it really, the themes really apply to entry level people, but also to the senior executives. So I'm putting it out there for folks to read, and hopefully it resonates. And I welcome feedback from folks. The book is going to be out on the market in September. Fingers
Nice.
crossed, toes crossed, all that. But we're working towards a good product.
Well, I will offer anybody in the Washington, D.C. area that has experienced M&A, they will enjoy the book. I think they will reminisce. Both as I read it, I was like, oh my God, we did that so right, and it was so good. And then there's other parts of the book I was like, oh, we did that too, and that sucked. So I definitely encourage people to buy it. Um, you and I could geek out on the theory and all that. So I do want to honor some of the theory. So I know the book is written based on two methodologies that you used throughout the book. So I would like for you to introduce two of them. So the organizational commitment, Mayor and Allen, if you could share a little bit about that, and then we'll talk about the next one, just so people can understand how you framed your conversations with the participants.
Sure. So first of all, I will say that I have a doctorate in business administration, and so where that differs from a PhD is that the PhD is theoretical. The doctorate is empirical. And the doctorate uses a conceptual framework based on theories. And so I picked two that resonated with me that I thought were really simple and applicable. Meyer and Allen is the one I used for organizational commitment, and they defined organizational commitment in three sort of buckets. The effective commitment is somebody who just they have an emotional attachment to the company. They love the company. A normative commitment is one where an employee has loyalty and feels a moral obligation to stay with the company. And then a continuous commitment is more so the employee weighs the cost of moving to a different company. They want to stay in their job because it's necessary for whatever reasons. They may be afraid to move to a different company. Moving may impact their life, or they don't have any alternatives. So again, effective, normative, and continuance. That's the organizational commitment piece. And then Lewin, his change management model. I use that as well, again, because it's very simple and it's unfreeze, change, and then refreeze.
Mm-hmm.
Unfreeze the current conditions, change those conditions, and then freeze those new conditions to the new norm.
Nice, nice, nice. So, on the organizational commitment, there's an emotional tie. I love the company, can't imagine working for someone else. Maybe even somebody who's there since the beginning of the company. Then you have the normative, which is much more, as you're saying, goal, loyal, that tied to the
Mhm.
goals and what's happening at the company. And then continuance is like, I'm here, it's good, it'll work. So those are the three areas of commitment. And I remember, Lewin, when I was doing my work at Georgetown, and it is a perfect user-friendly change methodology about an instance happens that forces an unfreeze. And in our conversation, it's an M&A. Then there's going to be a change. What's going to happen? Can you do the right things in that change to have it refreeze in the conditions that you want? Perfect.
Right.
So we
Yeah,
understand the
exactly.
frame. Now, from your research, the exciting part is that you came up with seven principles. You discovered and formulated seven principles that were informed by people's levels of organizational commitment. I'm going to mention the seven, but tonight we'll focus on really the top three. The first one is executive action, and you said that was a top priority, how executives show up. The second one, which was really high, was around culture. And I know you define culture in a very thoughtful way in the book. And working with my clients, I say culture is what we allow. That's what
Mm.
it is. Culture is the mindsets and behaviors we allow. So the second one is culture. The third one is communication, and how is that done through the M&A, right? And I'm not going to go in deep as the other four because we want people to, in September, buy the book to take the deep dive there. But number four is working and reporting relationships. Number five are the policies and benefits. And I will give a hint here there. That's not really what make people leave. Even though we hear that like, oh, I didn't like the benefits, that's not the real reason. Seven is organizational design and strategy. Number six is organizational design and strategy. And I have to tell you, seven surprised me is a change management framework. That one surprised me that in your research you found no one uses a known or proven change management framework to guide the M&A integration or transaction.
Yeah, it was really interesting. The majority of folks said that no one, not one participant said they were made aware of a change management framework or a playbook that was used by the buyer or the seller. And most of them said that probably they believed that one was used, but if it had been more overt, that would have had an impact on their organizational commitment. And change management frameworks or a playbook, it really emphasized communications, and it right back up to number three priority.
Yeah, absolutely. So tell me, from your both your experience as a witness to and of course your research that you've done, what is the most compelling cultural risk that happens during an M&A transaction?
Yeah, I think that the challenge with culture is the way that the company defines it and the way that individual employees define
Mm,
culture. And
mm,
so, if I'm a leader of an organization, a CEO or CFO, whatever it is, I want to understand what the culture means to my employees. I think that's sometimes it is the physical workspace. Sometimes it is the benefits. So it's important for the leaders to know what their culture is and how it's defined so that they can tee themselves up for a good acquisition. So, in other words, the culture mapping should be done. A
mm,
seller has a certain culture, a buyer has a certain culture, and maybe they're not too far off. Maybe they call things the same things different, or there's a lot of overlap. But it's important to know what the cultures are because that's really important, and that's what will drive employees to lose their organizational commitment.
nice. I love that. I have to tell you, one, culture being so important. I think this is my favorite quote in the book, and it's how you talk about leaders. Awareness of culture, and not just their awareness but their ability to deal with culture, manage culture. I have a very good work friend who always used to say, you got to name it to tame it, and if you can't name the culture you can't tame it, right? And so this quote in the book that you said, I love it. The indeterminate quality of culture can make it feel like a mysterious and inscrutable component of organizational management. So if it's mysterious to you, right, what would be your advice to help them know it so they can do the mapping together?
I think it really is having that discussion with the employees and lay out some worksheet or something like that to be able to figure out. It's really an analysis.
Hmm.
Tell me what
Hmm.
culture means to you, and then it's going to boil down to a few themes that are really important, and then
Yeah.
so you perhaps have a culture statement, and that the culture can change a little bit over time. I've seen that, but basically, in from what I've seen from the research that I've done. Um, the cultures of different organizations are not all that different, but especially with small businesses. But when an acquirer comes in, when a buyer comes in, that's where things can get, the culture can change a great deal.
Right. And
Could
rapidly.
be, and rapidly. And it could
Yes.
be as simple as, you have a lifestyle company where everybody's doing fine and everybody gets along. Ownership decides to sell. A buyer comes in and starts emphasizing financial returns, and less so on quality of work and more on quantity of work. So
Mm,
understanding, knowing what the changes are going to be is important, and how to deal with
right.
them.
Yeah, I will share that what I've experienced several times doing this work is that lifestyle company or family company or an original startup that grew, where a lot of the emphasis and the culture grew around both the employees and the client or the client's mission. And then when the buyer came in, there was this new emphasis or a stronger emphasis on the financial, and how that was impacted or communicated or expected really did change the organizational commitment. And you would hear, well, now they only care about the money. They
That's
no
right.
longer care about the delivery. They don't care about the team. So you would often hear that.
Yeah, no, it's
Yeah.
exactly right. And I reference a few really good stories and conversations about just that kind of thing in the book. I'm again so thankful that the participants of the study were so forthcoming with with their feelings and their perceptions about those kind of things.
It was as I talked to you about the book, I had to remind myself these aren't characters in a drama. These were participants in your story, but I was relating to their story so well that that's what they felt like to me.
Yeah, I think
Um,
a lot of people will be able to do that.
yeah. So you know my favorites were Sophia and Mateo. So I will just say that to entice people to read the book.
Yeah,
We do have a question in the chat. People want to know what size and type of companies did you analyze? Mid-market enterprise. So that was their first question, and then I will go to the second
sure.
question.
Sure. Yeah. My my participants were from small companies and large companies. It was, I think, more twice as many men as women. The all management consultants in the DC area. They had different participants had different levels of experience in terms of years in the industry, years with their company, and how many M&As they have experienced before. It was a very good mix.
Good, thank you for that. Um, I have another question for you. We know that so much of change, and of course, M&A is not change. It tends to be more transformational. It is a huge undertaking. We know that so much of that is won and lost in middle management. So, from your research and experience, what is the role should middle managers play throughout the M&A, the journey of M&A from the beginning to post merger or post acquisition?
Yeah, middle managers are well, they are in the crosshairs. They're in the intersection of and nexus of what leadership wants and what employees, client facing employees, rank and file, so to speak, what they are going through.
Hmm.
And so their role is critically important. They can, from what I have found, they can make or break um, individuals' organizational commitment. They have to carry that message from leadership very carefully down
Hmm.
to the employee level, the client facing level, carry the concerns back up to the leadership level, and so they are sort of that in that funnel area um, where they can have a huge impact. They've got to be on point with their messaging. They really can't speculate too much, but they're in a critical spot because
Hmm.
they're affecting people's careers, and they're also affecting the financial reaching financial goals of both companies.
So curious, communication was number three on your list of seven. One of the things you talked about in the book, you said sometimes the communication can feel like the game telephone. So thinking about what you said, middle managers being so critical, how are they, from the research, how are they piped into that telephone game?
Well, they're from what I found, they are they're included in the management meetings, and I'll make sure that I answer your question correctly. So jump in if I'm going astray. But they are it's important for them to get the messaging right, and as I said, they're going both ways. One of the things you don't want to do in communication is be inconsistent,
Mm,
and consistency again super important. You've got to be able to snuff out innuendo and water cooler talk,
Mhm.
and set things straight, level set. I think that happens a lot. But it doesn't all fall on the middle managers. It falls on executive leadership as well. Uh, Executive leaders, um, they've got to be consistent. They've got to be compelling. They've got to be compliant with rules and whatnot that the buyer may implement. They have to be direct in their comms.
Thank you.
So.
Um,
Mhm.
One, because there's a question about a program management office. Did you have mention of that? And I would just like to share um, one of the acquisitions that I was involved in. There was a PMO office, and there were several different lanes of work about how are we going to harmonize benefits, how are we going to harmonize financials, how are we going to restructure. And so there were several different things under the PMO, and we did have one on culture, but that was a large one and a large undertaking. So there, I know there are cases where there are a PMO office, and I think the question here for you is, in your research, were there? We know they weren't led by change management theory, but were there any that were held together or managed by a PMO office?
To my participants, my group, out of the six M&As, there was only one PMO that was mentioned, and it was set up with an executive sort of an executive committee to make decisions, is what I was told. One of the good things that they did was to engage employees in sort of the changing of workflows and in financial, in HR, in IT, in just processes and procedures. So that my participants reported just one.
Just one. Okay. Thank you for that. Do you think that one made a difference or not?
It's hard to say. I think it. I I don't think. I think it made a difference. But I don't want to speculate. One of
Sure.
the things that was an outcome of the research was that employees care so much about they're so much about their company, at least the ones that I spoke to, and so employers are doing whatever they can to keep employees engaged, to keep them committed to the organization, right? And that's what they should do. Um, but what I found was that 54% of the participants in my study left their company, quit within a year of the M&A announcement. And
Mm,
so if you think about that in terms of revenue, and just for easy math, um, one management consultant in a position generates $250 million. I'm sorry, $250,000 of revenue. And so if you lose four people, that's $1 million of revenue. And that doesn't take into account the time it takes to fill that position. So again, anything that management can do, leadership can do to communicate better, to whether that's about culture, or organizational strategy,
mm,
anything they can do to protect the culture, is gonna benefit the organization in the long haul.
yeah. Change really stirs up emotions. I mean, change is emotional. It is really emotional. So
Yeah.
in your book, you emphasize brilliantly how change is handled matters. So, from an employee's perspective, and you talked to several, including my favorite, Sophia Mateo, from the employee side, what would a good M&A look like? What would it feel like? What would be happening that would keep their organizational commitment intact and they could weather that freeze change refreeze
Right.
experience?
One of the um, one of the participants in my study was fully committed to the organization before the acquisition, before the company was acquired, and then post acquisition and during the integration. And it was because for her having the the buyer's leadership interact with the employees of the seller was a huge bonus. She said that that made her feel welcome and important, and gave her a level of trust, and so it was less emotional. So
Mm,
leaders have to be very careful about what they say and what they do, what they don't say, what they don't do. But one of the things that came through solid was if leaders uh, of the buying firm come and speak with the seller's employees, that could make a difference.
mm-hmm. And I can see how that can make a difference. So the buyer, who's now going to be the leadership in all essence, if they make the commitment to engage with the new employees, that makes a difference.
Absolutely right.
Okay. Is there anything in particular that they need to articulate or share that could help cement that difference?
I think it's showing interest
Mm,
in the work that the individual groups or programs are conducting, or the individuals are conducting. I think it's showing that level of interest and care, that's really important. And I know that CEOs are busy people, but it seemed to resonate with several of them. And I
yeah.
think the quote was it made me feel like the work that we were doing was important.
Mm, hmm.
And
I like that. Yeah.
I think that's what people want, that kind of recognition that they are doing good work for their clients, and that their work does matter. And when it comes from leadership, it says, well, you're not just a brain and seat. You're not just a number. We really appreciate what you're doing.
Yeah.
It impacts our mission in a positive way. It impacts our client's mission. So I think that's a good tact.
One of the things that, again, on the top three of yours around executive action, culture, and communication, while they're independent, they're interdependent. And I also think it's been my experience, and this is personal to me, and I will never forget this, is when the seller isn't accurately telling everybody what's about to happen. In the first M&A transaction I went through, they kept saying it was a merger. And I remember we had that same conversation where the buying CEO came to see us, and we thought this was a merger. So we were saying, oh, and you should consider this and you can consider that. And I remember he looked around and goes, you do realize you've been acquired. And we were like,
Mm,
oh, that's no, we didn't. Right. So having having the executive action of honesty and so the communication can be better is real, and it did once we realized we were required, we were like, oh,
oh,
that's not how it was explained to us, right?
right. Yeah,
And there
yeah.
was a huge culture difference. There was a huge culture difference. Speaking of consulting, we were talking about how, we took half a day on Fridays off to think, and he was like, yeah, that's not happening anymore. So,
Right,
so
right,
it
right.
was just a cultural difference.
Yeah, no, I've heard great stories, about that. There are, I read a statistic once, and I can't cite the reference right now, but M&A, mergers and acquisitions, there are really only about 3% mergers. The rest are acquisitions, right?
Exactly.
And
Yes.
that, call it what it is. I think, leaders should, to the extent they can, be authentic and be realistic, be transparent, with as much and consistent with as much information as they can.
Absolutely. I want to honor the time. It's 7:11. 7:11. We did start a little bit late. There's two questions I definitely want you to answer. So I hope viewers can hang with us if we run over just a little bit. And Dr. Jackson, I hope that's okay with you if we
Absolutely
do that.
fine.
But imagine you were coaching a leader who is now responsible for post transaction integration. You got to coach this person. They're brand new. They plopped them in there and be like, you're responsible for integration. What would be your best advice for them?
Yeah, I think probably a couple of things. One is to know your strengths, know what you're good at, and
Hmm.
and to be able to be humble enough to say, well, I'm going to need some help with this integration, and maybe hand pick some people to help you, and then get employees engaged as well. I think that you'd have more success. The person would have more
Hmm.
success engaging employees, getting them involved in the process and processes of change, than trying to do it solo or alone, or behind the curtain. I think it establishes some accountability, and it will improve the organizational commitment of those employees that are engaged in the activities.
Yeah, absolutely. The more, and we know this from basic change, when people are involved, they're more likely to stick with it and want to see it work. When they're told this is what you got, they're like, that's not mine, right? So that is an important one.
And I think other employees will come to them and say, "Hey, what happened? What happened there?" And then they can explain, because they have firsthand knowledge of what went right or what didn't.
Right. So know thyself, know where you're strong and where you're weak. Involve others because this is not a one person job. So involve others. Don't hide, be transparent, don't do things behind the curtain. Is there any other advice would you offer them?
I think I think that probably sums it up, fairly well, given the time that we have.
Right.
Um, there probably are some other things. You've got to be able to communicate up and down, and
Mm.
don't be afraid to ask peers for their recommendations on what went right and wrong, because there's lessons out there all over the place, or things that go really well or don't. And it's been my personal experience that every M&A that I've been involved with, every acquisition that I've been involved with is different.
Right.
But there are some overlaps. So having a playbook, developing a playbook, figuring out, that's the change management framework.
Mhm.
Figuring out what works and what doesn't is important, because you're likely going to go through it again.
Yeah, I love that they're all different and then there's some things that are the same and I do know your book will really help them see the sameness and how to handle that. One last question. What is the most important takeaway you want people to have from your book, to get from your book?
Well, I think it goes back to that statistic of 54%. Um,
Mm,
Employees are the life of the company, and you want to do everything you can to keep them committed, to keep them working. 100% retention is a great goal, but unrealistic. So I think it is do what you can. If you are going to make changes, or if there are changes to, for example, policies and benefits, then see what the trade-offs are, and maybe you can give a little more in one area if you have to take away in another. Um, be prepared for quitting, and do what you can to have some some um, some things to deal with. Be prepared for a lot of questions. Be prepared for a lot of communication.
Perfect. Thank you. Dr. Dan Jackson, author of Being Acquired, thank you so much for joining us at the October group. We are excited about your journey, looking forward to your book launch in September.
Right?
Um,
Hopefully, fingers
Yep,
crossed.
yep, yep. A good friend of mine said, hope is not a plan. So I am
Yeah,
sure, knowing you, it will be out there and good. So
yeah.
again, thank you so much for joining us. And for those who are joining, thank you so much. And I think you'll be able to see this on our YouTube channel very soon. So thank you so
All right.
much.
Thank you.
Have a
Thank
good
you
day.
very much.
Take care. Bye bye.
Okay. Bye.
Thanks for everybody who joined too. I love the questions. Thank you.